viewed as COVID-19 hotspots. Well, the commercial hub of Eastleigh is one of these areas, and our reporter Lydia Gashomo visited Eastleigh and took a COVID-19 test and has filed the following report. Take a look.
You will be wrong to think that these people are in a shopping queue. They are patiently waiting to be tested to know their COVID-19 status. Before the samples are taken, the person being tested fills a form with the help of an official from the Ministry of Health, giving details among others, their name, age, and the county they reside. After filling the form, he or she passes it to the next official, who gives them a container where the samples taken from the nostrils and mouth will be kept. The sample taking process begins. A 6-inch long swab is inserted in the nostrils and sample taken. The samples are put in a container. Another swab is put in the mouth. The samples are then taken to a laboratory for testing and the results confidentially shared with the person tested.
They are going to get their results through their email, and there is also a phone call a phone number that they are registering.
The number of people in the business hub worries residents such as Fatuma Ibrahim.
Kila nyumba watu wanajaa kama watu wengi sana kifamilia. Sasa mwingine lazima mwingine anaenda kutoka anatembea mwingine anakuja kwa nyumba, wewe ujui amechukua nini. Sasa hatuwezi kujichunga, lakini tunaomba Mungu atuchunge tu.
Both Eastleigh and Kawangware have been identified as COVID-19 hotspots. Eastleigh has reported 5 more cases, while Kawangware has registered 2 more cases in the last 24 hours. Lydia Gashomo, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country, panic and uncertainty gripped the nation. Despite the mitigation measures announced by the government, cases of new infections continue to be reported every day. Over 20 people have already succumbed to the virus, and as Calvin's Chitwa reports, a university in Eldoret is collaborating with herbal doctors to research on possible herbs that can treat COVID-19.
COVID-19 has caused many challenges socially and economically. Workers have been rendered jobless, schools closed, and people forced to adapt to new ways of living. There has been no proven cure or vaccine for COVID-19, but all over the world, scientists are working tirelessly to find a solution. Locally, such efforts have been going on with various research institutions and universities trying similar initiatives. One such institution is the University of Eldoret, which is now partnering with herbal doctors in doing research on possibility of finding a herbal solution to COVID-19.
We have started carrying out research with the herbalists to try and identify if there are any traditional medicines or active ingredients in the traditional medicines that can help treat this virus, the coronavirus, or can help alleviate the symptoms of the virus.
Professor Akenga noted that the research will also try to find out if traditional medicine from the herbs could have key ingredients capable of improving conditions of those that have contracted the highly infectious coronavirus. A section of herbal doctors in Uasin Gishu County have welcomed the idea. Dr. Shadrach Muimet, a herbalist from Uasin Gishu County, says they have the ability to contribute meaningfully to the fight against COVID-19.
Sisi wenyewe tunaweza fanya nini kama Waafrika? Tunajua kuwa WHO wamesema kuwa 70% of African population relies on herbal medicine. Ni wakati muhimu sahihi hivi tuweze kuona watu wetu walifanya nini. Waafrika walifanya nini ndio waweze kupigana na magonjwa ya virusi kama haya.
Many of the herbal doctors say they understand that coronavirus attacks the breathing system, especially the lungs, and they have a variety of herbal medicine they have been using to treat related ailments.
Sisi kama madaktari ya kiasili tuko na madawa zetu kama mitimbao ambayo inaitwa eucalyptus, ambayo tunajua kuwa watu wetu wamekuwa wakati uko na homa unafunikiwa, inachamushwa ile leaves, inachamushwa ndio iweze kufungua mabafu.
Kama hii mtoto akiumwa na tumbo kama iko na sokota kidogo, na tunaenda kutafuta hii dawa na kupea. Hii mtoto akijikuna ile vitu tunaita kwa lugha yetu kweche, tunaenda kuchamusha hii maji ichamuke mzuri.
But many herbal doctors and elders say COVID-19 pandemic has given Kenya and other African nations an opportunity to pay more attention to traditional solutions as well as researching on potential herbal medicine. Revelations on the University of Eldoret researching on potential herbal medicine for COVID-19 comes at a time when scientists at Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, are also said to be considering research on herbs as a possible solution. Eldoret Catholic Diocese Bishop Dominic Kimengich has urged the government to allocate enough resources and support to local research institutions, saying time had come for Kenya to stop relying on other countries for research.
These scientists have knowledge and they can help us enhance the local capacity. For how long are we going to continue relying on outside help? Yet, here in the country, we have people who can do that.
Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
Well, more than 10,000 households in Budalangi constituency in Busia County have been left homeless, while others forced to evacuate after a heavy downpour. Now, a heaven for street children. Rather, moving on to this particular story, we're seeing that 10,000 households in Budalangi constituency in Busia County have been left homeless. And let's just take a look at that story.
This area is prone to floods. About half of Budalangi's residential area is underwater after water gushed out of River Nzoia, swallowing the villages. 2 people have lost their lives and residents are counting losses to the tune of millions.
Leo tumelala hapa. Tukiamka usibuhi, maji imejaa kwa maboma yote ndi. Hivi vitu tukua tu. Tangu usibuhi sijakula, ile mnaniona hata sijapika. Angalia vitu vyote kutoka kwa nyumba na unaenda kwa maji ambayo inafika hapa hivi. Mpaka saa hii.
Kuwa na shida hasa kuanzia Bunyala South kwa muda mrefu. Sasa wiki hii ndio maji sasa tena imekuja sasa yenyewe ya kutoka kwa river na kutoka kwa mvua. Kutokea kule juu. Sasa imefurika zaidi ya nusu ya Budalangi yote iko chini ya maji.
Locals and some leaders are raising concern over a stalled World Bank project that is meant to put up permanent dikes that they say would have helped contain the water.
Sasa walikuja jamaa wakasema watu wa World Bank wakasema kila maji kifurika unakwenda kwa dike. Wanatoa msaada kama kapera, chakula na nini. Sasa wakaja wakasema hapana, safari hii tujengee dike ile bayo kwa permanent. Basi wakatuletea wa China, kampuni yao kwa hapa mkoa hapa karibu kilomita 1. Hao watu wamekuja sasa 3 years wamekaa tu. Hata hii maji hii mafuriko hii haingetupata.
The government has already embarked on evacuation exercise to move the affected families to higher grounds. However, some residents are hesitant about the evacuation exercise.
Tumeweza kuhamisha baadhi ya hawa tukawapeleka kwa shule zetu 10 za msingi haswa ambako wamejikita shauri ya usalama wao na afya. Ijapokuwa hali si nzuri kule, tunazidi kutizama vipi tutaboresha hayo maisha yao. Tuna msaada, ikifikia kesho tutaanza kuwapa chakula cha mgao, mchere na mafuta, baadhi yao wataweza kupata. Lakini tunashauriana na serikali kuu ni msaada gani mwingine tutaweza kuwafikishia. Tuko na bora afya akiitwa public health officer, anatembelea hizi shule kuona hali ya usafi na hali ya sanitation iko nzuri.
Sasa sisi tunaona mtu akisema atataka kusaidia asituambie tuende mahali. Atuletee chakula hapa, atuletee makapera hapa, atuletee kila kitu hapa tusaidie. Lakini kusema ninaweza kutoka hapa na hivi vitu vyangu vyote niende kule Vremi, nitarudi namna gani?
It is a double tragedy for the victims as they struggle to observe the government guidelines on combating coronavirus, yet they have to closely coexist in camps. Majority here don't have face masks and keeping social distance is almost impossible. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, away from Budalangi as the economy continues to bite in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, street children in Kakamega town have found a safe haven in Kakamega Youth Shelter, where it aims to rehabilitate and reintegrate them back to society. Malindi Kerry now reports.
This looks like an ordinary house, but inside it houses street children who have found shelter in it. They were formerly under the open skies of Kakamega town, but now they have a roof over their head.
Pastor Dan alinipata kwa gunia, akanitoa kwa gunia town, akaniambia kuna mahali naweza keti.
Bila aliponitoa town nilikuwa nikilala kwa gunia. Alikuja kwa gunia akanitoa kwa gunia akaniambia twende kwangu.
We do mentorship program with the children. We do mentorship, sports discipleship that we are doing. We also, apart from this program, we are helping them. Most of them have been sniffing glue, they are weak. So we are trying to give them what we call physical fitness at the moment. So this is a life skill session in relation to real life situation.
For Dan Omondi, the motivation to rehabilitate these children was a personal link. Their last-born sibling disappeared to the streets.
Personally, my brother was in the street. It's really sad when you see your brother from your family. My last brother was in the street. He just disappeared.
The harsh and unforgiving streets often force many indulge in drug and substance abuse. But here, they're exposed to Christianity and are given what they have always lacked in the streets, food and shelter.
Nilikuwa natumia gum, sigara, bangi, zote nilikuwa natumia. Nimebadilika na mimi namshukuru Mungu.
Yenyewe venye nimekuja hapa maisha yangu imebadilika. Venye nilikuja hapa nilikuwa mchafu sana. But venye nimekuja sahi, amenibaia manguo, nakula, nasikia raha.
Wanatuambia turekebishe. Tunakaa, tunalala, tunakula, tunaoga.
Basi amenishughulikia, amenunua manguo, amenunua slippers, amenipa.
Kakamega Youth Shelter, we have almost 65 children sleeping at the shelter. We have those who are coming during the day, during lunches, but the ones who are staying here we have 65 children. There are those that we have returned from their home. We have turned them back to their home. There are around 18 children. They are staying here for only 90 days. After 90 days, we are in the position of at least understanding their homes, understanding their relatives. We get communication with their relatives, and then we take them back to their families. Unfortunately, there are those that have gone back to their home, and their parents completely denied them, maybe because of land inheritance, because of polygamy's issue. So we have those children here. Here is where they called their home.
Although it is a calling to serve humanity, it comes with a number of challenges.
It's really not an easy task to provide meals for more than 100 children during lunchtime. Supper, we have almost 65 children. So on daily basis, and we really call for government to stand with us in whichever way possible so that we can make sure that our children are safe. And also we pray for government to help those bigger street kids. We have those who are above 18 years. All of them want to flock at the shelter, and we are only allowed to have children under 18 years.
It is the efforts of people like Omondi that could just be a step in getting many of the street children out of the streets. Mulindi Kerry, TV47, in the county of Kakamega.
I'll talk about determination there. Just looking at what the youth are doing is very, very inspirational there. Well, a middle-aged man from Kesiwa in Bungoma County is fighting for his life in Bungoma Referral Hospital after an angry mob confronted and attacked him. It is alleged that Stanislas Masinde has been having an affair with another man's wife. Our reporter Mike Kagwongo with more.
38-year-old Stanislas Masinde found himself on the receiving end last night as unknown men mercilessly descended on him. It is claimed that Mr. Masinde has been in a clandestine relationship with Mr. Mokoro's wife for quite some time.
Kidogo hiyo simu baba akisikilia ikapigwa. Kupigwa kijana akakimbia mbio akakuja nayo hapa kwangu. Ushuhuda kwamba yule kijana anapigia huyo msichana simu. Kwamba bado wanatongozana vile ilikuwa wamekatazwa kuhamia mwanzo. Na ndio haya maafa tunayaona kwa sababu kijana alipoona sasa huyo kijana kwa sababu alipopiga simu kijana aligeuza sauti yake akajifanya yeye ni mwanamke. Akamuuliza akamwambia toka, yani huyo bwana alikuwa anamwambia huyo msichana toka, mimi niko hapa njiani. Mimi nakungojea na utoki. Yani maneno yazungumzwa akiwa hapa. Nikasikia kwa masikio, si ati niliambiwa, simu ilikuwa inafanya kazi.
Huyu mwenzangu ni kama alikuwa anaongea na bibi ya huyu jamaa. Na huyu jamaa akakundua. Sasa wakakuja wakakombana. Na hiyo maneno ikaenda mbele wakasuluhisha.
The drama led to the irate villagers taking the law into their own hands. They broke into the suspect's house with the aim of forcing him and his entire family out of the village.
Na tazi wao wananchi wa hapa wamekasirika, wakasema ila haiwezekani, ndio umeona wamefanya kitendo ambacho wamefanya kwa boma lake, pia hawajafurahishwa na kitendo ambacho Joseph Mkoro alifanya mwenzake. Kama ingekuwa na nini nyingine tofauti, kama tofauti ilikuwa angechukua sheria, kwa sababu chifu akaapa, mkasa akaapa, angepiga ripoti kama sasa alimkosea ili aweze kuchukua hatua ya kisheria, lakini kuchukua hatua kwa mikononi mwake.
Area Chief Eliud Muyeho confirmed the incident and urged the residents to desist from taking the law unto themselves, but instead practice patience.
Sheria sio kwa mkononi, waendelee kuarifu vitu ya watu, kwa sababu kesi kwa polisi wakipatikana pia watachukulia hatua. So naomba tu wakuwe watulivu, tuongojee ripoti ya polisi.
Meanwhile, Masinde's family, led by his father, Mr. Frederick Baraza, is now seeking justice, claiming their son sustained injuries. They are now awaiting a medical report from Bungoma County Referral Hospital.
Kongo mbafu hii, hata tulifikiria mbafu imefunjika, lakini kwa hospitali ichafunjika. Wamepika mkuu, hata kwa saizi mtoto hawezi simama, tunapepa tu. Wamefanya x-ray. Sasa tunaongoja scanning kwa life care. Walituambia tuongoje kama masaa mawili namna hivi tuende tupate ripoti kamili.
Sisi tunalilia haki, serikali tusaidie. Sababu kuna wenye wanajitai ya kwamba wako navyo, wanaumiza wengine, wanafanya vile wanataka, mtu anasema tu atanifanya nini. Sasa tutaishi kwa amani ama tutaishi tu kwa vita hivi?
Reporting for TV47 from Bungoma, I'm Mike Kagwango.
Well, as scribes across the globe mark the World Press Freedom Day for one Munene Kamau, the journey to attaining the freedom we enjoy today was not easy. He's among the many who faced detention without trial during the early 80s for doing their job, which in this case is reporting news. Our reporter Moige William has more details.
So nikamwambia hata nikuchelewa. So akaweka piso chini. Nikandungwa halafu nikaangushwa na huko. Nilikaa wiki mzima siongei.
As the world celebrates World Press Freedom Day, 39 years in service as a journalist has not been an easy ride for one Munene Kamau.
Siku zile hakukuwa na uhuru wa habari, sababu ni we were under one party. Na it was very very dangerous for journalists who operate in Kenya. Sababu ile information mnagather na kulirelease mpaka kwanza iwe censored. Kuna watu walikuwa wanaitwa ma district commissioner ama wakuu wa wilaya na ma provincial commissioner wa siku zile walikuwa ni kama ma demigods. Haungeandika chochote bila wao kwanza apitia aone kama iko sawa itoke.
Meeting him at his home in Idaraine village, Kirinyaga County, 60-year-old Munene says he has seen it all in the media world, having been detained as a journalist during the Moi era.
Ndio nije kushikwa and to be detained, You know, during the one party, media outlets zilikuwa chache sana. And then there was a very strong Kanu man
the late James Njiro. He was the most powerful man on land. Between him and Moi, there was nobody in between. And therefore his word was law. And then there was Hezekiah Oyugi, who was the permanent secretary. Ndiye alikuwa kibicho wa siku hizi. So Njiro, because he always wanted to dictate what should be carried by the media, I told him over my dead body. He was arrested and then detained in Kerugoya police station for 3 days without any charge. So my children were, of course, traumatized because that was the second time now, having been arrested in their presence right here in 1987. And now that was 89 again. 87, 89. You see, the period is short.
With the changing times and trends in the media sector, Monene says that a lot has changed. He says that the media today enjoys press freedom, unlike during the one-party rule of the KANU regime.
If I can get to my social media hapa kama ni Twitter, alafu niambie president vile nataka na hakuna mtu ananiuliza, I can say whatever I want without having to look around. Those days, you could not even speak because you could not trust your own shadow.
Monene has, however, advised upcoming journalists to take advantage of the available press freedom we are enjoying today to highlight objective stories while maintaining the watchdog role.
So, nikiangalia siku zile na siku hizi, uhuru wa wanahabari ni mwingi. My only concern ni ile abuse ya press freedom by some journalists to express and to enjoy those fundamental freedoms ya wanahabari, mpaka na sisi tuwajibike. We must be responsible. Kenya is not a foreign country, it's our mother country.
Though age has caught up with him, Monene is still passionate about his profession. He has now turned to online publication. As the world marks this important day, journalists have been challenged to report objectively. Mwenge William, TV47, Embu.
Well, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has warned parents against paying school fees for any kind of learning during this period. He has insisted that the national examination dates will remain as is, even as he urged children to continue enjoying their holiday for the extra 1 month until June 4th.
Even up to this point, the government has not decided to postpone the national examinations. You have eyes and ears, and you can ask yourselves whether in your considered opinion the past week has been good or bad as far as coronavirus is concerned. And perhaps I want to end this by asking you questions, because you are perhaps too young to have children, but you must have brothers and sisters. Would you rather send your children back to school at the end of the month with all these facts that you've just been given now? So if and when we are going to make the pronouncement that we are going to either shift the calendar or open the schools, we shall wait for the appropriate time, which time has not arrived, and that opportunity will come as we together look at what the government is doing.
Well, with that story, Morning Cafe will now take a short break. Remember, we have so much lined up for you. Coming up next, we're looking at the papers. Just in case you haven't gotten your paper today, this is the show to watch. We'll be telling you exactly what is in the dailies today. And of course, remember, we have also a lifestyle segment telling you about fashion for those ladies who perhaps, by the way, you don't even know how to dress for a certain occasion, or you don't know how to dress your shape, because everyone has a different shape. Today, we'll be telling you all about that. And of course, we have a current affairs interview, just talking to some of the analysts about the current affairs, anything that is developing right now, our stories, and of course, anything else in the world of news right here on Morning Cafe. So don't go too far. Morning Cafe will be back shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Since late last year, the coronavirus COVID-19 has emerged as a serious healthcare threat. This is an infection that has gone global and no one has been spared. The government, through the Ministry of Health, has put in measures to keep Kenyans safe against COVID-19, which is currently rampant around the world, with new confirmed infections and death cases daily. Such sanitization and screening of visitors at this border post and across every entry point in the country is very vital in preventing the spread of the disease in the country.
I'm very happy about the screenings that are going on in Tanzania and Kenya. I think it's very proactive that you're thinking about stopping it at the border so that it does not spread.
It is scary that a single cough here can lead to an outbreak of epic proportions. In order to prevent that, the government has instituted measures to keep Kenyans safe.
The facility has all the equipments you need, from handling a basic patient up to ICU setting.
However, you also have a role to play in preventing spread of infections.
Citizen responsibility is the key to the success of this initiative and these measures. Let's all do what we have to do individually. And this is how we are going to defeat this disease.
It's just our general hygiene, okay? And that now means at workplaces, we should ensure that our work surfaces are clean.
Well, let's ensure that nimefanya proper sanitation ya mikono. Every time na board matatu, lazima ni sanitize mikono.
We have faced many severe challenges as a nation, and we have always found a way to rise above them. COVID-19 is no different, and we will overcome the pandemic. Stop coronavirus. Follow all directives from the Ministry of Health. Wash your hands properly.
Kila baada ya miaka mitano tunawachagua. Kwa kazi zao za ofisini tunawafahamu. Lakini je, unajua maisha yao zaidi ya ofisi?
Naomba Mungu kwamba ndio kabla hajaniokoa nikuwe bishop, anipatie mpaka ile kipawa ile ya kuona ile ya ukweli, si ile vitu ambayo kinanganga wanafanya hapa ya ukora.
Milima na mabonde tutavuka, kaunti zote 47 na ikibidi nje ya nchi tutafika, ili mradi kuhakikisha kuwa umewafahamu.
Vile ningetaka kusema ni kwamba that vile tumelelewa tukiwa ndani ya biashara. Kwa hivyo biashara ilikuwa ndani yangu. Hii maneno ya kuandikwa ilikuwa tu formality kidogo upate laini.
Wale waliopo na wale waliokuwepo, wote kwa mpigo tutawapata. Nitabisha, wakifungua nitaingia, kisha nitakupeleka kwa utaratibu katika safari yao ya maisha.
Kumbusha nioe 1992.
Ndio nikukumbusha.
Ni mama alikuwa anatukasia sana, anasema lazima vijana muoe.
Hayo yote utayapokea katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, nami Elizabeth Mutiko, kila siku ya Jumatano saa 2 kamili.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is TV47. You're watching The Morning Cafe with me, Liangare. It's a new dawn right here on TV47. Just trying to do something a little bit different for the morning show. And indeed, right now, we're moving over to the newspaper review. And with me in studio is, of course, my guest, a very knowledgeable guest indeed. His name is Joseph Simeka, who is a political strategist. How are you doing, Joseph?
I'm all right, thank you. Good morning.
How is your morning, by the way? I know that right now it's a little bit different, but when I heard you kind of got lost, I was wondering if it's traffic or what's the problem? What was happening?
No, there's hardly any traffic on the roads. I mean, there's very little traffic, but I've been coming here for the first time. It's a little hidden. Google was also a little confused.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I resorted to the good old, well-tested method of stopping and asking physical human beings.
Google confused. How is that possible? I always use Google myself. Whenever I'm going to a place where I've never been before, that's what I use. So how is it that you got lost?
He was totally confused. It sent me in very close here, but a different direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the streets, even before we go too far and look at the newspapers, Joseph, if you look at what's happening in the streets, the traffic is coming back to some sort of normalcy. What does that tell you about Kenyans? Especially considering right now we are in between fighting the coronavirus and, of course, trying to mitigate, the spread of the virus.
I would base my comments on what the experts in the area of public health have advised us on, because, of course, I'm not one of them. But just the fact that they are saying, look, still be extremely cautious, keep distances, use masks, especially when out there and so on, work from home as much as possible. All that advice, I believe, it's advice that we still ought to follow. But it's not just the streets. There are many, examples of evidence that people seem to be assuming that it's not as bad as they say, it's not as bad as they say, we can relax, and so on. But I think it's reckless behavior, I think.
Yeah, because when you look at the streets, even while I was driving to work, looking at the cars on the road, there was a bit of traffic, and I'm wondering, so life is back to normal, what's happening? Has COVID gone? Well, Joseph, let's just take a look at the papers. We'll just begin with the People Daily. Unfortunately, we're not able to access some of the other dailies today, Joseph, but I'm sure we'll be able to get a good look at what is happening for the People Daily. I'm just trying to connect to the People Daily right now. I don't know if my director can come and just assist me a little bit. But when you look at what is happening right now, Joseph, when you look at the wars in Jubilee, I know that's one of the stories on the front page. You're looking at the Deputy President William Ruto, what he's going through. Seems like he's actually being sidelined by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's definitely one of the guys who everyone thought, they're buddies, they're there for, forever together.
My surprise would be if the URP troops are surprised. That would be my surprise. The URP troops, William Ruto and his political team. If they are surprised at what is happening, that would be my surprise. I do recall sometime in between 2013 and I think at about up to, 2017, doing analysis on television when they were talking about merging these parties. And countless times, advising that they shouldn't. It's best to retain your party and get into a coalition, negotiate a coalition. You can negotiate and renegotiate a coalition, but not dissolve your party in the name of forming one party, because basically the party that was being formed is what we now call Jubilee. Is really, TNA, it was the stronger of the initial two partners in the coalition. So for me, it's not a surprise at all. I would be surprised if they're surprised. I would be surprised if they were not prepared, if they did not expect this kind of, they're calling it betrayal. If they didn't expect this, I would be completely surprised at what kind of politicians they are. I should hope that they expected this. They knew it would be coming at some point. Maybe it's just people who are less experienced around William Ruto, who are losing their temper and they're getting into tantrums, thinking that this should not have happened. But people who are experienced in politics would know that this was long in coming, but it was suddenly going to come.
And you know, Joseph, when you look at this story, it continues on to page 2. That's the People Daily. You read it and it says Deputy President William Ruto's supporters yesterday declared that he will not run for president on the ticket of any other party other than that of Jubilee, which he founded with President Uhuru Kenyatta. What does that mean? I mean, if right now he seems to be sidelined and he still insists that he's going to run on a ticket, with Jubilee Party, is that really possible right now?
It may be possible, but I think we look at the details of what they keep saying, and it keeps changing, because he has said, William Ruto himself has said before that he's not an automatic candidate of Jubilee, that Jubilee would have an open party primaries, what we call here nominations, and whoever wins the ticket will run for president. So if that really is the position, you wouldn't need at any one point, regardless of the pressure you come under, to keep restating that you will run on the ticket of that party. Because if that was true, what he had said earlier, it would mean that either he will be the presidential candidate of Jubilee Party or perhaps not. And if he's not, he'll support whoever else is the presidential candidate. But of course, when he has said before those things that Jubilee will have a fair, open, party primaries and so on, if you know a little bit of politics, you know that no, that's not true. That is just putting on a brave face. The expectation always was Uhuru Kumi, Ruto Kumi, and that's what they said to the public, and that was always the expectation.
And will that be actually, the reality in the future? Do you think there will be another Ruto Kumi?
No. When you see how far this rift has gone, I do not think it's pretending, it's pretense anymore. Sometimes some people have said that no, they're just playing games. I do not think these are games. When you see the kind of things that have happened, to William Ruto, when you see the rift between them, even for him, it is extremely dangerous to antagonize a sitting president to the extent that him and his troops have done. It is also dangerous for a sitting president for this to happen, and then the person that they're having this tiff with becomes the next president. It is extremely risky. So I doubt that I doubt that Uhuru Kenyatta and his troops would allow for Ruto to become president. I know someone would challenge me and say that Uhuru Kenyatta is not the voter. Kenyans are the voters, so they're the ones who will vote for William Ruto and so on. That counts where all votes are counted and all votes count. Okay. But there are many situations in our country that you have to take into consideration that determine who becomes president of the Republic of Kenya.
And Joseph, we're having that page on the screen right now, the Standard also touching on the same story on the front page, talking about Deputy President William Ruto's allies planning to take over. Of course, if you look at also the People Daily here talking about the fact that it has learned that Ruto's allies have lined up a series of dossiers with which they claim expose scandals involving people who are closely, allied to Uhuru. I mean, does this mean that there's a ticking time bomb of war in the future?
I think it's already out there. I think they seem to sort of have declared open war. From what we are getting on the news, they have declared open war against Kenyatta and his allies, and they're going to spill these things. And I say again, it's extremely dangerous in politics that you do not fight political wars in that manner, especially with a sitting president anywhere. Some people say in developing countries, I say anywhere, even in the US and so on. For as long as they're still in office, the Commander-in-Chief of Defense Forces, they therefore have monopoly of control over instruments of coercion and so on and so forth. You are opening a dangerous war. It's not even a question of whether it's fair or not, but I'm just talking about reality. So I do not see this, I can only see this getting worse. And in terms of them finding out these things and spilling them out, it's good for Wananchi to know what people who are in public office are doing, but it doesn't make them any better. It doesn't make for William Ruto any better. I mean, it's just that, you are doing certain things together. Now, because there's a falling out, you are talking about the other side, whoever you are doing these things with. It doesn't make you any better, but thank you very much for the information.
Very sad situation there for the DP. I mean, no one will even want to be in his shoes right now, but let's just wait and see how things will pan out, as this war continues. I just want us to shift gears, Joseph, to media freedom and looking at what's happening with the media. I mean, of course, Joseph, this is not the first time we're talking about pay cuts in the world of the media industry. I mean, ever since the digital platform, nothing has ever been the same. What are your thoughts about this? Because I personally think ever since we introduced the digital platform, you know, the digital era, things seem to have changed. Too many people losing jobs, pay cuts, and now COVID is here and more pay cuts are here with us. What do you think about the status of the media industry?
You know, it depends on how people who have interests in the media, including people like yourselves who work in the media, and in fact, especially people who work in the media, understand what the media is and what the media sells. I mean, because sometimes people think that the media sells news, or the media sells entertainment, or the media sells newspapers, or viewing time on television, and so on and so forth. The media actually sells people to other business entities. The media sells audiences to business entities. So the moment there's anything that affects those audiences, and these audiences are for advertisement, the media makes the bulk of its income from advertisements. The moment there are drops in these audiences, there's going to be fundamental change in how the media houses operate. And they are these I call them private enterprises for public good. They are private businesses, but what they do is for public good. Remember this, when you say private business, it means they have to operate on basis of profit. They will not engage in things that will cost them profits, unless you are a state broadcaster, where you are getting a budget from the state. Otherwise, what is happening now, nothing new. It should have been expected that the moment you begin to drop in terms of audiences, advertisements drop, the media houses have to make changes, unfortunately.
And you know, I think many people need to understand how the media works, Joseph, because when you try and understand where we get our money, to where the management gets the money to pay the employees, you know, you understand that if without advertisements, then it means there's no revenue coming in, or maybe the revenue coming in is very little. Just exactly what you're talking about. And I think also, if we look at the story, page 3 of the People Daily, the Kenya Editors Guild President Churchill Otieno decried low revenue volumes in media houses and called for innovation among journalists. What kind of innovation are we looking at? What would you say we can actually, you know, put up as innovative ideas to cushion journalists?
I think it's quite challenging, because that space for innovation that Churchill is talking about is not exclusive to journalists. Now it's an open space that has, if you like, citizen journalists, many other people who have access to that digital space, where they have means of getting to news, even including breaking stories that sometimes, in fact, traditional media will pick from these citizen journalists. So that space that Churchill is talking about is a highly competitive space. I do not see it, I mean, a few people will make breakthroughs, you know, when they are doing things on Twitter, on YouTube, and so on, and they attract attention of people who want to use their platforms to advertise. So you can see that space for innovation, in fact, creates more competition. So it's not, I think it's not going to be easy, but yes, if you want to stay in the industry, then the giant media houses, these establishment media houses like yourselves, have to rethink. I just don't know what the answer is, but they have to rethink, how do we sustain audiences so that we persuade businesses that we have the numbers that would attract their attention.
And you know, just the other day, the government actually has introduced measures to cushion people in the entertainment industry. Of course, journalists have also been thinking, what can the government do to cushion the media industry? Is there really something the government can do? As much as we want to generate profits, Joseph, we also have to be, you know, a bit logical. Look at the situation we're having right now. We can't do much about it until maybe COVID is gone completely. Do you think maybe the government should consider cushioning the media industry in one way or the other?
I'm not sure. So many people will say they want to be cushioned. You know, there are so many essential services out here that, as you know, I don't think this pandemic is sparing anyone. Maybe except people who manufacture soaps and sanitizers and hand wash and masks and so on. But anyone else, I don't think, you know, is being spared, and therefore they would be hoping that someone comes in and cushions them. And you know what? If I was in government, I wouldn't worry too much about mainstream media, by the way, except radio. Radio is still what reaches like multitudes of people. But otherwise, mainstream media like, television like yourself and other media houses have immense competition from the platform that we've just been talking about, the digital platform. There are people out there who have certain kinds of followings, and they put things, for example, on Twitter or Facebook, and they completely irritate the government. So therefore, government pays attention to those kinds of people. But to mainstream media, and looking at the volumes of the numbers that mainstream media employs vis-a-vis the numbers, the working population in the country, they may not pay that much attention. What normally worries a government that it says that we need to do something is institutions that employ huge numbers of people. Then they worry that if this business collapses, we will have a huge number of people out there on the streets. So there are many things, and I know that even what I'm saying is just, it's just a fraction of the factors that one has to consider before governments make those kinds of decisions.
Well, I just want us to look at another story here. It's on page 5. That's Kenyans are being warned against lowering their guard. Joseph, I don't know what's up with Kenyans though. You're told what to do to protect yourself. This is not even about, another person. It's first of all about your own health. It's first of all about your own life. But here we are seeing Kenyans still being told to, observe the containment measures. What do you make of the Kenyans' attitude towards, especially times of crisis? You see them during, maybe a truck has rolled over and they're siphoning fuel. They know it's dangerous. Here is COVID. It's a worldwide pandemic, and they're still being told, observe containment measures. What do you make of the Kenyans' attitude? Yeah,
there's an element of a level of illiteracy, functional illiteracy. You could go to school, even go to university and have 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, but there are certain basics that still just elude you. And those are the things that drive your attitudes towards life, towards other people. Things like ethos, what is it that drives you? What is it that you believe in? Unfortunately, with the privatization of education, anything goes and everything goes, so everyone for themselves. You find people who think that what you are telling them to do is not important, or what is important for them is what they can get for themselves now, here and now. And if what you're telling them, in their opinion, stands in the way of them getting what they can get for themselves here and now, like I have to go to work now, I have to siphon that fuel now, I have to benefit from that thing right now, they will sort of ignore you. Then on the flip side of that is, do we have a government that people trust generally? That's extremely important, that because of the culture we've had in this country, a lot of people don't trust government, and that's good.
Or even respect government, because you've been told to observe containment measures. People are even breaking the curfew right now. The government is trying to consider harsher or more stringent measures to make sure that people actually, observe the curfew. Like you're mentioning, it actually might be the case. There's no trust, number one. There's no respect. It reflects the relationship between government and the citizens. You wonder, what does the future portend for a country like Kenya that, people don't even respect the government?
In a big way, it does portend, it does reflect, rather, the relationship between people and government. I always say that it's all right, actually, it's patriotic not to trust government, but then you know what? Listen to your government. You don't have to take it, trust it, but listen to it, check what they're saying, verify, and then do what is best for yourself. Now, if you find that in times of COVID-19, what is best for yourself is to ignore physical distancing, is to ignore protection like masks, is to just go and mix and do whatever you want, then now the problem is not government, the problem is yourself. But the issue of trust is something that we have to look for opportunities to work on as citizens and government. That what can we do about governance of our society that can help to at least work on the issue of trust between citizens and government, so that there can be a measure of trust between citizens and their government.
And even citizens having to take it seriously, whatever they're told by the government. Well, looking at page 10, I just want us to close this newspaper review. Joseph, there's a cartoon, an interesting one there. Well, it's not funny, by the way, but so there's a judge there, there's a magistrate, and he says, name, he's asking the person in court, and he says, Coroner, And then the person says nickname, and the magistrate says nickname, the person says COVID. And then the magistrate asks country of origin, the person says China. And the other one says countries, the magistrate says countries you've murdered innocent citizens. Oh. And the person says all. And then the magistrate says, I hereby sentence you to death. What do you make of that cartoon?
Yeah, I don't know what actually is a little difficult to tell, because it's sort of, if you like, it's sort of the obvious, but it may not be that obvious.
But what does it say of China? Because
you know what, I know that from what has been said in public that this virus originated in China, but I would sort of tend to believe what the World Health Organization says more than what Trump and his colleagues say, that it was deliberate, that something artificial, manufactured or engineered. When given information between those two and a few other world leaders, I will sort of tend to believe what the World Health Organization. And the virus can originate anywhere. Congo, we had Ebola originate from Congo.
Yeah.
What would you like to say about Congo? Would you like to condemn Congo? Would you like to ostracize Congo? So I will be extremely reluctant to ostracize and condemn China. There may be things that China has done that it ought to have done better.
Yeah.
Knowing that this is something that has the potential to affect beyond its borders, to have such a huge negative effect beyond its borders.
Mm-hmm.
I think China needs to be tackled for that, but not to be ostracized, and in my opinion, not to be stigmatized, as if to suggest that it is deliberate, that they began this virus deliberately.
Well, some people actually believe it might have been deliberate. Others believe China has answers to where maybe we can get a cure or a vaccine. There are many speculations.
Yeah, I've heard those
stories. But like you're saying, I think the best thing is just to listen to the WHO, the World Health Organization, because that's the only place I think mostly we can get verified information.
Precisely, because this is a specialized area. It's not, your ordinary area that you go look at things and make a conclusion. You really just have to listen to expert advice on exactly what is happening. And for now, the expert advice, the number one expert advice that I will personally go for is what comes out of the WHO. I wouldn't even listen to presidents of the various countries, because I do know that politics also play a huge role in how these kinds of occurrences are perceived and portrayed, especially in the world media, by political leaders.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph, very interesting press review today. Right now, I want us to take a short break, Joseph, and we'll be joined by another guest just to take us through the current affairs in terms of developing stories and, of course, other stories making headlines across the country and, of course, across the globe. Well, Morning Cafe does take a short break. Remember to stay tuned, and you can engage us through our social media platforms. That is TV47KE on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Remember, the hashtag is Morning Cafe. Don't go too far. Morning Cafe will be back shortly.
Enroll your child with the Manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a course-friendly format.
Kwa hivyo mimi dau langu la mdokezo na ufafanuzi wa fasihi nimelirudisha kwenye ukingo. Tukutane tena katika somo lingine tutakapolipanda lile dau, tuende katika maswala ya uchambuzi wa kina ya hiki kitabu Tumbo Lisilo Shiba.
Mount Kenya University takes pride in being an academic giant with some of the best infrastructure, imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Calm down, msichana, calm down. Kuna nini kwani? Hali mahututi?
Nani amekupa permission ya kutoka hii shule unaenda nyumbani? Mr. Tumbo. Evidence iko wapi? Asimu to evidence.
Mr. Mackenzie.
Angie, what is the problem?
There's an agency, please, you need to help.
Mimi niliwaambia. Mimi na Jay tuko hivi. Hatupata nangi. Angalia kama saa hii. Umesikia ati amepewa instant leave. Jay amepewa instant leave.
Nye leave. Unajua kwa nini amepewa leave?
Levelpesa.com. Have you closed your business operations due to the corona pandemic? Are you unable to travel to and from the workplace? Due to the coronavirus pandemic, Levelpesa is opening its online portal free of charge to everyone wishing to sell products and services online. Simply register at levelpesa.com, take a photo of your goods or service, describe it and start selling at no charge. Register today to get your e-commerce app for free.
Bomba la Sanaa, kipindi chenye burudani ya aina yake kila siku ya Jumamosi.
Ukinipenda sana nijipe, nataka moyo wangu nijipe, nijipe.
Mahali utapata nafasi ya kuwajua na kuwafahamu wasanii wapendao. Na bila kusahau kitengo ambacho sisi wakanga wasanii kwa maswali, yani kikangoni.
Kama unaona hizo nyimbo na Harmonize zinatokea mnakuwa studio, vitu vina vibe. So sijawahi kuwa na tatizo la kusema sitaki kuimba na Diamond, wala sina tatizo la kusema sitaki kukaa kwenye bench moja na Diamond. I don't have a problem with that.
Na pia tunatembea katika vyuo vikuu kujumuika na kuburudika na wanafunzi.
Susanna Vanesenge, hello. If you get to hear this song, somebody loves you. Hey, what's up, unatazama Bomba la Sanaa.
Kila Jumamosi, saa 4 mpaka saa 6.
Naye Tony Mwiriki.
That's what's up. Keep it locked, don't move, usibandue.
I hope you're happy now. I see you flexing on the ground with your sponsor, Susanna.
Mengi amesemwa kuhusu jinsi virusi hivi vya corona vinavyosambaa na kuzuiliwa. Hata hivyo, sio yote unayasikia ni ukweli. Uongo mwafanya watu wengi kuishi kwa woga kote ulimwenguni. Nimekutana na watoto wengi wakisema kuwa mbu, yani mosquito, husaidia kusambaza virusi hivi. Huo si ukweli. COVID-19 husambazwa na hewa. Na hii hufanyika wakati mtu aliyepata virusi hivi hukohoa na chembechembe za mate usafiri hadi kwa mtu mwingine. Ni aina fulani ya mbu ndio huleta ugonjwa wa malaria. Ni ukweli kwamba ukipata chanjo ya pneumonia itakuzuia kupata virusi hivi? La hasha. Hivi virusi ni vipya. Wataalamu na madaktari wanajizatiti vilivyo kuvumbua chanjo mpya ili kukabiliana na virusi hivi. Njia ambayo ni mwafaka na rahisi kupunguza kuenea kwa ugonjwa huu wa corona au COVID-19 ni kunawa mikono yako kwa kutumia sabuni na kujiepusha na vikundi au umati. Kumbuka kuwa mimi na wewe tunaweza kufanya mabadiliko makubwa.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe with me, Liangari. And it has been a very exciting morning, by the way. And starting off the show, basically looking at the newspaper review, looking at what's happening in the world of news. And right now we want to go in depth into the world of news. And with me in studio, we have Daniel Orogo, who is a political commentator. How are you, Daniel?
Good. It's wonderful to be here again.
And it's good to see you after a long time. I think the last time you were here was probably like a month ago.
I think 2 months ago. Of course, the trajectories of the novel coronavirus, all of us are taking, cautionary measures as advised by the ministry.
But it's good to see you well. It's good to see you in good and perfect health.
Pleasure.
And of course, we still have with us Joseph Simeha, who is a political strategist. Joseph, it was very exciting just doing that newspaper review with you. And I'm sure some of the stories we have touched on, we'll be touching on again, just going deeper into the stories. Joseph, I'll just begin with you. Looking at the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Kagwe is set to appear today before Parliament to account for funds towards the fight against COVID-19. Well, Joseph, what should we expect today? This will be happening afternoon.
I don't know what to say, what we should expect, but let me just quickly look at the last few days in terms of how he and his team, when I say he, is not just him as an individual, but someone who heads a team, how that team has performed in terms of public accountability. There's the reality and perception. Those two must always match, especially in a political environment. Because if you communicate, if you fail in communication and send the wrong perception to the public, it can be very difficult to persuade the public otherwise with regards to how you've used public resources, even if what you are saying is true. So when you look at this issue of resources, of a budget meant for COVID-19, the very first report that they put out there in the public, they actually sent to Parliament, it communicated very alarming things to the public. Now, he is arguing that there is we as the public misunderstood. There's really nothing that has been stolen and so on. But guess what? That is what has come out to us as the public. Maybe he may be able to change, him and his team may be able to change if they come before Parliament, they bring details that the public can use to verify that maybe it was just a problem of miscommunication. And this is something that people who are in public office, administrators and politicians and so on, must always bear in mind that they are accountable to certain people, that they don't take things for granted. Okay. I want to just quickly link this to something Kagwe did at the beginning of, when he was barely days old in office, and a court of law gave an order about a couple hundred passengers on a Chinese airliner that had come in to be traced and quarantined, and his response was sort of dismissive. Now that sets a certain impression in people's minds, the kind of public officer you are, that if you can be dismissive of a court of law, what about these other aspects of accountability?
And that's what we were talking about, Joseph, before we took a break. When we were just doing the newspaper review, you mentioned the issue of trust between government and the citizens. And if this is the attitude, then it speaks of how the Kenyans will even respond to the government and even the level of seriousness. But let me just hear from you, Daniel. Do you think this is an issue of miscommunication, or perhaps there's misappropriation of funds, perhaps?
Well, I think let me pick it from what my colleague has just talked about. And we are well aware that this is not the first time the public officer have been called to, to respond, to the matters of alleged misappropriation of funds and that are diverted towards causes that were not meant to be. This is another one. But again, we are here as a country, and remember that the money that we are being, the ministry have been asked to account for is from the external sources. And you see, what we always have is what my colleague has talked about is running so fast and dismissing, public documents that are, have leaked out to sources. I would take it to a different twist and give it the fact that, it is now the ministry against the public, and look at what not only the reaction by the minister, the head of state in his address on Labor Day actually, exponentially came out to dismiss and even allege that this is an issue that is now being politicized, as opposed to, asking Kenyans to wait until the processes that are called for accountability are taken care of. Remember that, the parliamentary committees are quasi-judicial in nature. In a sense that, if you are someone to give a detailed explanation about an allegation, then it is a matter of proving the worth of explanation to what you are called to account for. I saw in the statement of, one of the senators, Muranga Senator Irungu Kang'ata, yesterday, asking that they are waiting patiently so that the minister would come up with facts to prove the allegation that is within the public domain. At the end of the day, suffice to communication. At the end of the day, it comes to a matter of restoring the public trust, because when you are called to account for resources in the public that you've used, it is in line with what you expected for, and that is reassurance of the dignity in the office that you serve. So that speaks volume for itself as well.
Daniel, looking at the fact that we even got 6 billion from the World Bank, and then now we have this issue of, we have to, the CS has to account for how the funds are being spent and where they're being channeled in terms of, the fight against COVID. I think it calls for, some bit of concern towards how the government is perhaps handling funds, especially funds that are really needed by the citizens. But away from even the funds, of course, people are speculating, of course, the fact that maybe the CS might have to explain the situation at Kemri in relation to the suspension of the scientist in charge of COVID-19 testing. This, in case, is Dr. Joel. What do you guys think about the suspension?
Yeah.
Let's just begin with you, Joseph.
Very well. If I may, on the area you are running away from, and I know it's in the interest of time, but they are related because these are issues of public accountability. Even this issue of the scientist, Lutomia, I think is his name, who was demoted, I think these are issues of public accountability. Kemri, you are hearing about the complaints about some scientists not getting allowances, and yet they work in a very risky environment. Those are issues of public accountability. What I want to draw your attention to, not even the figures of monies and so on, just the fact that the people who are supposed to be spending this money are public officers. Some of them are state officers, but let's just take all of them are public officers. Ordinarily, they have hospitality budgets. So therefore, that means when they receive donor funding to spend on something that is like an emergency, part of that money should never ever go into hospitality, because ordinarily they do have. And if they don't have, it means they've not been taking tea. So they shouldn't start taking tea because now they've received donor funding. That when you receive donor funding, it should strictly go to what is most critical. And the things, administrative budgets, your salaries, hospitality, and so on, should continue being funded the way they have always been funded. That said, these are issues of accountability to the public. When I heard the minister comment on the issue of the scientist who was allegedly demoted, this is I think his name is Lutomia, again I just thought, what arrogance. It's not about you. You have been given an office of public trust. You may be doing the right thing, but it matters how you are doing it. And the public is demanding for explanations. Why are you doing this? In whose interest? And how are you doing it? Right. So if you respect the fact that this is an office of public trust, you'll never come out with that arrogance that I don't even know why this thing is making headlines, this is being politicized. It's a matter of public trust. You are responding to your employers. They are making noises. Please respond to them with a bit of humility.
Well, gentlemen, let's move away from the CS and the fact that he'll be appearing in Parliament today before Parliament. And I just want us to move over to mass testing and the public lethargy. Of course, looking at the numbers now, 465, 30 new cases yesterday, bringing the total to 465. Of course, the government yesterday saying that they're blaming the rise of COVID-19 curve on the casual behavior of Kenyans. Let's just hear from you, Daniel. I know I got some views from Joseph earlier on, but the casual behavior of Kenyans, why do you think this is the case, Daniel?
Every time a question is put forward on how Kenyans are casually reacting towards a certain, happenings. There are matters that I always put into perspective, and I had before Joseph actually talked about an issue about mass ignorance when something serious like this is called to come to order. I also like to put my message that the fact that not only in Kenya that are we grumbling with mass arrogance and and ignorance, but also let's look into what perspective, because like yesterday you saw Governor Joho in Mombasa saying that we are going to lock you guys down, whether you like it or not. So I think there is a sense in which our leaders must begin to realize that the public are now not only wary about contracting and the virus and also spreading it, but now people are beginning to question, are we going to die of the novel virus, or we are going to die for lack of putting food on the table and trying to feed our families injured every day. So
Daniel, it's a really thin line. Because
that's what
much as you want to go look for food, you have to also remember that in your looking for food, you're putting your life on the line.
What I'm saying, and this is why I said, first of all, is the measures that we put. And for one reason, I'm not really trying to justify the cause of Kenyans, but I'm trying to let us also look at the other dimension, that, it's within normalcy that we are seeing Kenyans, especially in areas that are so underprivileged, are now trying to weigh, do we really have to, to stay locked in the houses, or do we really begin to question why, how then do we put food on the table? The other time you saw a case that had been within, I think some areas in Mombasa where, the public were outrageous about families now beginning even to cook stones, to keep their children think that they're cooking food. And this is why we are seeing within the cities, people are, in what we call ignorance, are moving out, in large numbers.
Daniel, that brings us to the fact that perhaps
the issue is that government orders remains government orders in the interest of the public. In that, if we violate the orders that are, put forward by the ministry, then we are putting innocent people to risk. I think this is a message that needs to get outside there and sink into the minds of Kenyans. You asked in the morning, how is the situation in Nairobi? And you see, even the ministry wary that we are resuming back to normalcy and beginning to think that, we have decided to beat the virus and catching up.
Daniel, let me just throw a question to Joseph. You've mentioned pertinent issues there. The fact that people have to go out and look for food. We've heard of governments, African governments, such as Rwanda, that is actually going out of its way, to feed the people, to take some food to the people so that they don't even have to go get out. Joseph, now when you look at the situation we're having right now, let me mention this. Yesterday, looking at the news, watching across different TV stations, you see a story of people in Kangware, they are giving each other a high five. It's normal, business as usual. There's no social distancing whatsoever. So it swings both ways. The fact that they have to go out looking for food, but there's also a sense of ignorance. So then how do we deal with this, Joseph?
Yeah, and I said earlier, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
What can the government do? Because we need to do something. The government needs to do something.
Yeah, there's an element of ignorance, in the public, but there's even much more important an element of lack of trust.
Yeah.
The way the government is approaching this, it shows to me that they fail to acknowledge the fact that they are not trusted. I know they may hate to acknowledge that, but that's the fact. And once you have that, it doesn't matter what you use. Even if you use artillery. I mean, there are areas in this country where there've been breakdown of law and order, and government has taken there the heaviest weapons. It has never succeeded until it goes through elders, people that the masses can trust. And speak through the elders, and then those who are, where we have had clashes and armed clashes and so on, they step back because they respect the person who is telling them. So government, however bitter this is, however unfortunate this is, must accept. I would advise Joho, don't shout at your people. Yeah. I understand him very well, by the way. I totally understand when he loses his cool and his patience and he says, what's wrong with you people? But also go be in their shoes and understand mistrust of governments that have mistreated citizens for a very long time. that trust is not going to develop in 1 or 2 months. That is a long-term investment that we have to engage in for us to change that situation. So for now, government should have had to use tactics that are quietly acknowledge that we are going to be addressing people who don't trust us.
Exactly.
How do we approach it? Who do we go through? Who do we partner with? So that people can listen and see that this is important for them. But if you just come and try to force citizens, even if it's important for them, in fact, the more you do it, the more they push back. Because of mistrust between government and citizens.
And even talking about mistrust, the curfew breakers, a new rule, they will be put in other detention centers. Before they were being put in quarantine centers that belong to the government, that are under the government, but in this case, they'll be moved to other centers. What do you feel about this? We've seen Kenyans who have been put in isolation centers, they actually break off and run away. It's really of concern. I mean, as much as, let me just play the devil's advocate. We are talking about the government needs to do this and this and this, but what do Kenyans need to do? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to save not just your life, other people's lives. Okay, maybe you can say, maybe I miss sifikirini kona corona, but remember there's asymptomatic cases, people who are actually positive but they don't have the symptoms. I mean, how much more can the government speak to Kenyans regarding this issue? Daniel.
And you see,
and in brief, because you're almost
my seniors just talked about this, and basically that sums up. A country that erodes, a government that erodes the public trust, then it's quite difficult, for citizens even to believe, in such kind of government. As we speak, the Kenyans who can, look to you straight in the eye right now and still tell you that there is no corona in this country. Even as we speak, they will definitely tell you that, what we are seeing here is just government theatrics. But again, it all boils down to what institutions, what we are trying to do here and what the media is doing. They're telling people, this thing is alive, and simple as it's killing people. And it's killing our people in masses. We really need to tell people that look at countries like Italy, look at countries like Spain and UK, where people are dying out of this virus, and it's in existence. But also another thing that I keep on trying to communicate is that situations like this, expose the soft underbelly of the governments, not only in Kenya but in the whole of Africa, in terms of how long did we and well did we invest in our healthcare system. You have seen cartoons around where mockery, where members of parliament are being taken to those hospitals. There's one cartoon going around that and they're rejecting to go to those hospitals. And the citizens are asking, why are you rejecting if this is what you've invested for the whole of your lifetime? So I think it is important, even for us to begin to relook into the system of governance that we have in this country. If this is what we've invested in, then we need to, to trust in the processes. But again, it's a question of public trust. It's a question of how then would people trust you to deliver the services that, for a long time you would want to expose. Lastly, we had something interesting about data, which we could put into perspective. The government have enrolled a number of measures. For example, we had Huduma number. Then why is it difficult for governments to know even the data that we talked about last time about the housing census? It is important, even as we embark on measures, for example, to distribute food. It could be quite easy for the government to know how many families are seriously underprivileged that need support in terms of distribution of food.
Daniel, I'll cut you short from there. Well, Joseph, I know he's mentioned the issue of African countries, the healthcare systems. Of course, it has been said that some of the counties, Kenyan counties, are not able to fight COVID-19, effectively because the healthcare system is, seem to be a bit weak. But I just want us to shift our mind away from now the Kenyan perspective to take it to the regional perspective before we come to a close of this session. Joseph, if you look at how African countries are handling the fight against COVID-19, what do you think would be the ideal collaborative effort, between African countries towards the fight against COVID-19?
I know you would have expected that at the very minimum in our region, there would be an East African community approach, that there would be collaboration because of the high level of interaction between citizens of the East African community countries. But unfortunately, look at Burundi, which is praying and saying that, God will take care of everything. In fact, there are no cases because they're not testing, and that's fine. Look at Tanzania, where also their president is saying that the body of Christ cannot be threatened by coronavirus and so on. I mean, it sounds like a joke, but these are very serious things, and each country is took their own decisions on how to, which is fair, but beyond that, we should have seen a measure of, at the minimum, regional collaboration. Then continental collaboration. I know that the African Union has named a team that is supposed to spearhead some kind of collaboration, but beyond the naming, we are not seeing much beyond the naming of that team. So I think we have a serious weakness in terms of collaboration, cross-border collaboration, yet a pandemic, especially triggered by a virus, does not respect borders. It doesn't care, it doesn't know about borders. We like it or not, we can do a perfect job in Kenya, but for as long as Somalia is exposed, for as long as Tanzania is exposed, we are not out of the woods as well. So it's an area, again, our leaders have failed us, but I just don't know what to say, what can we do? What is the intervention that can be done so that we reverse that situation?
Well, let me just hear finally from Daniel as we come to a close. Daniel, make it brief.
Well, let us also, celebrate the work that the governments of, the region have done. Senegal right now has enrolled, a test kit that is worth $1. You can buy it. We are having discussions over, the organic concoction that has been in Madagascar, and where, all Africans now are turning their eyes and their hopes into. So like my colleagues have talked about that, we are in a situation of pandemic, and it requires a joint collaborative effort for us to combat. And that is why, I applaud the effort by the IGAD regions, the heads of states that are working day and round to not only, share notes, but also to combat, try to combat this disease, spiral in the borders and across.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Very insightful. Thank you so much. Joseph Simeha there, political strategist. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you tomorrow again. And of course, also Daniel Orogo, who is a political commentator. Thank you for making time as well. Well, Morning Cafe will again take a short break. Remember, again, we have a lifestyle segment where we talk about all fashion, music, entertainment, name it. And that's what's coming up next. Today we're looking at fashion, just in case you wonder, how do I dress my body shape? Not everyone's body shape is the same. Sometimes you try a few things here and there, but well, it's gonna backfire. So what do you do? Today we have a stylist in studio, that is Melina Gold, and she will definitely tell us a little bit more about your shape and how to dress up. So don't go too far. Morning Cafe will be back shortly.
Kila baada ya miaka 5 tunawachagua. Kwa kazi zao za ofisini tunawafahamu. Lakini je, unajua maisha yao zaidi ya ofisi?
Naomba Mungu kwamba ndio kabla hajaniokoa nikuwe bishop, anipatie mpaka ile kipawa ile ya kuona ile ya ukweli, si ile vitu ambayo kinanganga wanafanya hapa ya ukora.
Milima na mabonde tutavuka, kaunti zote 47, na ikibidi nje ya nchi tutafika, ili mradi kuhakikisha kuwa umewafahamu.
Ile ningetaka kusema ni kwamba that vile tumelelewa tukiwa ndani ya biashara. Kwa hivyo biashara ilikuwa ndani yangu. Hii maneno ya kuandikwa ilikuwa tu formality kidogo upate laini.
Wale waliopo na wale waliokuwepo, wote kwa mpigo tutawapata. Nitabisha, wakifungua nitaingia, kisha nitakupeleka kwa utaratibu katika safari yao ya maisha.
Kumbusha nioe 1992.
Nani alikukumbusha?
Ni mama alikuwa anatukasia sana, lazima vijana muoe.
Hayo yote utayapokea katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, nami Elizabeth Mutiko, kila siku ya Jumatano saa 2 kamili.
Hey, Sospitason, tumefutwa wote.
Yawa, pia wewe?
Tumeachiliwa.
Si pia wewe unaweza anzisha biashara yako?
Na hii economy venye iko tough sana.
But not too tough for Mwananchi Credit.
Tutafanya aje?
Si niko na 5 good cars. We can get a quick logbook loan approved within 6 hours.
Nataka kuanzisha salon na spa. Hii haitatosa.
Si tuko na title deeds pia. We can still get more money using them. Get a quick approval within 6 hours using your logbook or title deed. Do not get stuck. Call Mwananchi Credit today. Si nilikuambia.
You are a big smart joke.
Mwananchi Credit. Investor in people.
Mox Limited urges all citizens to practice the set guidelines to help curb the spread of COVID-19. Please stay home as much as possible. Practice social distancing measures. Wash your hands. Use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. And always wear a face mask while in public places. Komesha Corona. Stay home. Stay safe. Mox Limited, your construction caring partner.
Enroll your child for the Manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a cost-friendly format.
Kwa hivyo mimi dau langu la mdokezo na ufafanuzi wa fasihi nimelirudisha kwenye ukingo. Tukutane tena katika somo lingine tutakapolipanda lile dau tuende katika maswala ya uchambuzi wa kina ya hiki kitabu Tumbo Lisilo Shiba.
Mount Kenya University takes pride in being an academic giant with some of the best infrastructure, imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Calm down, msichana, calm down. Kuna nini kwani? Hali mahututi?
Nani amekupa permission ya kutoka hicho unaenda nyumbani? Mr. Tumbo. Evidence iko wapi? Lazima utoe evidence.
Mr. Mackenzie.
Angie, what is the problem?
There's an emergency, please, you need to help.
Mimi niliwaambia. Mimi na Jay tuko hivi. Hata upata nangi. Angalia kama saa hii. Umesikia ati amepewa instant leave. Jay amepewa instant leave.
Nye leave. Unajua kwa nini amepewa leave?
Mengi amesemwa kuhusu jinsi virusi hivi vya corona vinavyosambaa na kuzuiliwa. Hata hivyo, sio yote unayasikia ni ukweli. Uongo mwafanya watu wengi kuishi kwa woga kote ulimwenguni. Nimekutana na watoto wengi wakisema kuwa mbu, yani mosquito, husaidia kusambaza virusi hivi. Huo si ukweli. COVID-19 husambazwa na hewa. Na hiyo hufanyika wakati mtu aliyepata virusi hivi hukohoa na chembe-chembe za mate usafiri hadi kwa mtu mwingine. Ni aina fulani ya mbu ndio huleta ugonjwa wa malaria. Ni ukweli kwamba ukipata chanjo ya pneumonia itakuzuia kupata virusi hivi? La hasha. Hivi virusi ni vipya. Wataalamu na madaktari wanajizatiti vilivyo kuvumbua chanjo mpya ili kukabiliana na virusi hivi. Njia ambayo ni mwafaka na rahisi kupunguza kuenea kwa ugonjwa huu wa corona au COVID-19 ni kunawa mikono yako kwa kutumia sabuni na kujiepusha na vikundi au umati. Kumbuka kuwa mimi na wewe tunaweza kufanya mabadiliko makubwa.
Levelpesa.com. Have you closed your business operations due to the corona pandemic? Are you unable to travel to and from the workplace? Due to the coronavirus pandemic, Level Pesa is opening its online portal free of charge to everyone wishing to sell products and services online. Simply register at levelpesa.com, take a photo of your goods or service, describe it and start selling at no charge. Register today to get your e-commerce app for free.
Bomba la Sanaa, kipindi chenye burudani ya aina yake kila siku ya Jumamosi.
Ukinipenda sana nijipe, nataka moyo wangu nijipe, nijipe kiboko, sijamuona kama
Mahali utapata nafasi ya kuwajua na kuwafahamu wasanii wapendao. Na bila kusahau kitengo ambacho sisi wakanga wasanii kwa maswali, yani kikangoni.
Kama unaona hizo nyimbo na Harmonize natokea mnakuwa studio, vitu vina vibe. So sijawahi kuwa na tatizo la kusema sitaki kuimba na Diamond, wala sina tatizo la kusema sitaki kukaa kwenye bench moja na Diamond. I don't have a problem with that.
Na pia tunatembea katika vyuo vikuu kujumuika na kuburudika na wanafunzi.
Susanna Vanessa, hello, hello, hello. If you get to hear this song, somebody loves you. What's up, unatazama Bomba la Sanaa.
Kila Jumamosi saa 4 mpaka saa 6.
Naye Tony Mwiriki.
That's what's up. Keep it locked, don't move, usibanduke, usibandue.
I hope you're happy now.
Welcome back. Indeed, this is the Morning Cafe, and this is the debut edition of this amazing show, set to kickstart your mornings every day with entertainment, music, fashion, current affairs, news, name it. Well, let's just look at some of what some of you, what are you saying on social media. Of course, we have there different people talking about different things, and if I can just get that on my screen, I just hope I can just get it back. But basically today, Morning Cafe, talking to you about different things. Of course, let me just move over. We'll look at what you guys are saying online, but of course I've actually noted that many of you are watching from different areas across Nairobi. And of course, we have just a lot of comments, and let me just have a look at them later when we do get the comments. And let me just introduce, today we have Melina Gold. Melina Gold, you're looking good. By the way, you look like a stylist.
For real. Thank you so much.
And personally, I love stylists because I'm into fashion. That's something probably many people don't know about me. But if you look at me in terms of style and stuff,
I can see from even how you're dressed.
I have a touch of fashion in me, and I love fashion. It's good to see you. Melina Gold is definitely one of the ladies to look out for when it comes to the fashion industry. She is a designer. She is a stylist. She's able to tell you different things about your body shapes. Today's discussion about dressing your body shape. Melina, you walk in the streets, but now you will see guys wearing different things. You know, sometimes I'm walking, I'm like, what?
It's crazy.
How did that chick leave the house like that?
It's crazy. Like even their friends
What's
or
the
their
experience
partners.
like?
I mean, it's crazy. Like, I mean, there are people who might have like even a sense of fashion, but they don't know how to like dress their bodies. So it's one thing to be like fashion literate, and there's another thing to understand your body and to know how to dress your body. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about dressing, and today, of course, it's really good to know that we have some of your models in studio.
Yeah.
And you'll be telling us a little bit more about how to dress for the different body shapes. But where do people go wrong? I'll tell you, for me, one thing I've noticed, and many times when stylists are trying to dress me, I'll tell them I don't want a pleated dress, number one. I don't, is it wedge shaped? Number two. So what would you say about different shapes, and how many shapes do we have, the body shapes for ladies?
We have several, a couple of them. First of all, there's the hourglass, by which the bust area is almost proportional to the hip area, and then they have like a slightly tiny waist, you get. And then there's a rectangular sort of shape, whereby it's like all proportional. Hair from like top to bottom, they're just like the slim kind of type. And then there's the triangle, whereby they're a bit big on top, and then on the bottom part they're a bit smaller. And then there are others, the pear shape, where they're a bit smaller, the shoulders, the bust, they're small. And then the
hips are kind of straight.
Yeah, the hips are all over the place. So you see,
what did you say about my shape? What's my shape?
I think you're like a pear.
Pear? I would have thought I'm an hourglass.
Pear, yeah. You know, you can easily confuse pear and hourglass, but when I look at your shoulders, you're a bit smaller on top, and then your hips are like, you get. So I think you're a pear shape. So most of the people tend to go to misunderstand pear and hourglass. Yeah.
And even looking at the pictures that are running on the screen right now, what would you say that is? In terms of the pictures running, if my director can just have a little bit more of those pictures. I know those are like plus size models.
Yeah.
What would you say about those shapes?
These are basically plus size models. You know, for plus size, you can be different shapes. You can be like an hourglass plus size, you can be a pear plus size, you can be a triangular shape plus size. So it varies. So in every shape, whether you're small or you're big, you need to understand like your body shape, and that's how you'll understand how to dress it.
Well, let's look at your models. We have Melina's models in studio. Yeah. Maybe you can tell us their names, and then you tell us a little bit about their shapes.
To the right, I have Kaylin.
The one in black?
Yeah, the one in black. She has an hourglass, you see. You can see like her upper body is almost proportional to her lower body. And for her to dress, it's a bit easy because she already has the shape. So what she needs to do is to, like, as you can see, like focus on dresses that are like fitting well. You see?
When you say fitting well, what do you mean?
Like they can like portray her body shape really nicely, because she doesn't have any struggle, most struggles with her body.
Okay.
You get.
So she can wear bodycons and whatnot.
Yeah, hourglasses are free. You know, most of them are so free. What they shouldn't wear is like the wrap-ons, like things that hide their body. And most of them always feel like they need to wear, I don't know, like the kimonos and such stuff, but they literally need to display their body. Also, they need to show off their waist, because you see, like they have like a really, really nice waist, smaller waist.
I should mention, by the way, the outfits that the ladies are wearing on screen right now, they're actually designed by Melina.
Yeah.
Melina, what inspired the black outfit we're seeing on screen?
The black outfit, actually I had like an hourglass person in mind when I was creating it. I wanted it to display like the curves, you know, help women like appreciate their curves. And then as you can see, the colors are very you can wear it as a formal dress. You can pair it up with for like a blazer or something. So you can wear it when you're even anchoring, like for example or you can also use it for like outside reasons that are not actually formal.
Okay. Well, how about the other outfit? And tell us her name.
Her name is Miriam. The outfit is a jumpsuit. So her body is more of a rectangle, because you can see like she's more like proportional up and down. So such people look really, really nice in like skinny jeans. But most people with this shape tend to wear high-waisted jeans with tucked tops
and they have
a
flat
belt. Yeah.
Should someone tell guys who wear high waist are the people with tummies like us?
Yeah, it is meant to like protect, you know. But as you can see, her like the jumpsuit also brings out her body really, really nicely, and it's the off-shoulder aspect of it makes her shoulders look proportional to her hip area as well. And you can see it has like a smaller waist illusion, so it makes her look like she has, you know, like some curves.
You know something, Melina, looking at the shapes that we're talking about in studio, I think when you look at fashion, the people who usually have the hardest time in dressing, well, it's an assumption I have, because I have friends who usually have a difficult time at the plus size models. Is that the case?
Yeah, like that's like the general you know, I don't know if I should call it like a stereotype, but you can be small, but you find that your upper body is bigger than your lower body, you know, and you're insecure about it. But plus size are most people who actually have that problem, you know, of dressing. And I think it's high time that plus size should like embrace their bodies, embrace their curves. They should not be afraid to, you know, to dress up and be out there. And some of the things that they should focus on is things that that make them look a bit smaller, like in terms of wearing
When you say
jeans.
something smaller, tell us like outfits, or is it wraparounds, is it skinny jeans, or what?